All right, so you really went all in on the whole portal thing, huh? Articles, papers, even some deep cuts on the psychological stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to be a walking portal encyclopedia after this deep dive.
Sounds like you've been doing your homework. You've got a solid mix there, from the development history to the use in academic research. I'm impressed.
Well, I had some help gathering all of it, of course. But yeah, it looks like we've got a lot to unpack here. We've got the basics covered, like Wikipedia, but then you got all this other stuff, like the psychology behind the puzzles and the narrative techniques, even like the Ratman dens. It's a lot.
It really is amazing, how a game known for being funny. I mean, the portals alone. How it can be such a gold mine for, like, serious academic study. We're talking level design, narrative, even its use as an educational tool. Wild, right?
Totally. And it's not just the portal gun, right? Remember the companion cube, the one we all got attached to and we were forced to...
Though, yeah. Heartbreaking.
Right. Total heartbreaker. But it turns out the developers, they originally wanted players to carry that cube, like
Right.
through multiple levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, they added the heart and the whole GLaDOS thing because playtesters just kept forgetting about it.
Wow. See, that's game design for you. Even the smallest detail can make or break the experience, and turning a plain old box into one of gaming's most iconic sidekicks.
Genius.
Genius is right. And then there's GLaDOS. Her dialogue is, well, it can be both witty and kind of terrifying,
That's
Like 1 minute you're laughing and the next you're questioning if she's actually gonna.
turn on you.
Exactly.
Well, the game does this amazing job of walking that line between humor and, let's say, genuine unease. 1 minute you're chuckling at a quip about Paik, and the next you're staring into the abyss of your own mortality.
And those messages, too, like the cake is a lie thing. Those little hidden messages add a whole other layer to the story. Absolutely. Those aren't just there for atmosphere, those messages. They give you these glimpses into what happened to the test subjects who came before you, hinting at, the darker side of things.
It's like you stumble upon these breadcrumbs, and you realize, hold on, this isn't just a puzzle game. This is like a mystery, a really messed up mystery.
And then, just when you think you're starting to piece it all together, bam, that ending hits you right between the eyes.
Talk about a cliffhanger. I mean, who drags Chell back into the facility? What's the deal with the deactivated personality cores? And that cake. Don't even get me started on the cake.
It's the mother of all cliffhangers, no doubt about it.
Man, what an ending. Right. Talk about a setup for a sequel. But, even without Portal 2, the first game is just like it's a masterclass in how to tell a story.
It really is. And it's amazing how they pull it off with, like, relatively simple tools. I mean, think about it. It's all environmental storytelling, cryptic messages, and, of course, a GLaDOS. She basically carries the narrative.
For sure. And they never really spell things out for you, right? You have
Yeah.
to kind of like figure it out as you go.
Exactly. It's what makes it so engaging. You become this, like, detective trying to unravel this whole messed up world.
Totally. And speaking of engaging, we got to talk about replayability.
Yeah.
Because Portal, it's not just a one and done kind of game.
Oh, absolutely not. Once you've finished the main story, that's when the real fun begins, right?
Right. The advanced chambers.
Yeah.
Those time trials. So good.
It's like they designed it with that in mind,
Yeah.
The basic mechanics are easy enough to pick up, but then there's this whole other level of depth. And then, of course, there's the mods.
Oh, man, the mods. Some of those user-created maps are insane. It's like the developers just gave everyone the keys to the kingdom and said, go nuts.
Exactly. And the fact that they included that level editor, genius. It just opened up this whole new world of possibilities.
And the creativity. I mean, think about all the memes that came out of Portal. The cake is a lie.
Yeah.
Come on, that's iconic.
It really is. It just shows how well written the game is. Like, those lines, they're not just funny, they stick with you. They get them into your skin.
Absolutely. It's like they knew exactly which phrases would just worm their way into our brains and never leave. And speaking of the developers, your research also goes into their design choices, like the whole aesthetic of the game.
Right. That whole minimalist look. It wasn't an accident. It was all very deliberate.
Really?
Oh, yeah. By stripping everything back, getting rid of all the unnecessary details, they force you to focus on what's important. The portals, the puzzles,
That's so interesting because it's funny, like, even with that really sterile look, the game still manages to be kind of, I don't know, expressive. Like, who knew a metal box could make you feel so much?
It's all in the details. The sound design, those little animations they throw in, even just the way GLaDOS talks to you, it all adds up.
And the music. We can't forget the music.
Mm-hmm.
Still alive, playing over the credits. Genius.
Pure genius.
Catchy, funny, a little bit creepy, just like the game itself.
And Jonathan Coulton's lyrics, perfect. I mean, you've got GLaDOS singing about her own supposed death, but it doesn't feel sad, you know? It's like there's this undercurrent of, I don't know, defiance, maybe even a threat.
Chilling. It's brilliant. And
Yeah.
it totally sets up Portal too. But even without the sequel, that song, it just cemented Portal's legacy. It's more than just a game at this point. It's like a whole cultural phenomenon.
And that's what your research really highlights, I think. The fact that Portal, it's impacted so much more than just gaming.
Totally. I mean, we've seen it inspire like scientific breakthroughs, philosophical debates, even the way we think about problem solving. It's kind of wild when you think about it, a game about like shooting portals, and it's had this huge ripple effect on all these different things.
What gets me is how, even now, it still feels so fresh, like it hasn't aged a bit.
Totally.
And I think part of that is how it, like, taps into these bigger questions
Right.
about AI, about the ethics of technology, stuff that's more relevant now than ever.
It really is like this weird mix of funny and kind of unsettling. Like, yeah, it's a comedy, but it also makes you stop and think like, whoa, are we sure we want to be doing this whole AI thing?
Exactly. It's like a cautionary tale disguised as a puzzle game.
And I think that's a big part of what your research really brings home. Portal, it's not just a game, right? It's like it holds up this mirror to our own anxieties about where technology is taking us,
100%.
which I guess kind of leads to the big question, right? Where are we going with all this? What lines are we willing to cross?
Those are the questions, man, the ones we should all be asking. And Portal, even if it's just through the lens of, like, should you incinerate a sentient cube, it gives us a way to talk about these things.
Right. Deep stuff. But hey, on a lighter note, before we go full-on existential crisis here, I did want to circle back to something. Your research mentioned how the developers, they weren't afraid to, like, experiment.
Oh, yeah. Iteration was key for them.
Right. They'd try something, and if it didn't work, they'd just scrap it and start over. No big deal.
They were constantly pushing the boundary.
Exactly. And that got me thinking, like, what if we all took that approach? In our own lives, I mean.
What do you mean?
Like, what if we were all a little less afraid to experiment, to fail,
Yeah.
to just try something new and see what happens? Who knows what amazing things we could create?
That's a fantastic question and a perfect note to end on, don't you think? It seems like the lessons we can take from Portal, they go way beyond gaming, don't they? Maybe the real Portal is just our own willingness to embrace the unknown.
I like that. The real Portal is inside us all. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive.